Na dzisiejszym panelu zajmiemy się etyką świecką i będziemy ją kontrastować z etyką religijną, a zwłaszcza z pojęciem potworności. Potworności Boga jako koincydencja oppozytorum oraz etyki religijnej, czy precyzyjnie teologii moralnej, która się na tym jakoś opiera. Dobrze? Teraz przedstawię naszych znakomitych gości, naszych panelistów. Dan Barker, amerykański ateista, aktywista, muzyk, kompozytor i autor. Autor książki Mere Morality. Witamy Dana Barkera, bardzo proszę o brawa. Następnie mamy kolejnego znakomitego gościa, Mohamed Cise z Wybrzeża Kości Słoniowej. Mohamed był szkolony na muezina, był imamem. Teraz już imamem nie jest, ale ja go nazywam imamem etyki. Także brawa dla Mohameda. Następnie mamy profesora Stanisława Obirka, polskiego teologa, historyka, antropologa kulturowego, profesora nauk humanistycznych z Uniwersytetu Warszawskiego. Jest byłym jezuitą, obecnie prowadzi również bardzo interesującą krytykę dotyczącą między innymi Kościoła katolickiego. Witamy serdecznie. Dobrze, i zaczniemy naszą debatę. Ja tu będę miał pytanie pierwsze. Może poproszę Dana Barkera odpowiedź. Okay, so how does the image of God in the Bible, which can be interpreted as the image of the arch monster, a terrifying coincidentia oppositorum, relate to the morality of religious leaders and believers in the evangelical Christianity? Okay. What is the response of an alternative of secular and atheist morality to this image of God and its influence on people?
Thank you. So I'll give an example. I did a debate last month in Florida with a Christian apologist, conservative Christian apologist, who, by the way, was also a Trump voter, but it's a free country. And the debate was on God and suffering, the problem of suffering, which is basically the problem of evil. But these days, people are saying more the problem of suffering, because natural evil doesn't really imply a moral, like an earthquake or a tsunami. If there's a good God, why does he allow suffering? And so we did this debate in front of an audience, and I gave the example in the 25th chapter of the book of Numbers in the Old Testament. There's a story, which, by the way, you can read that in the book, God, the Most Unpleasant Character in All Fiction, which, by the way, is Richard Dawkins' line. God, the God of the Old Testament is arguably the most unpleasant character in all fiction. So I have a book that documents every one of those nasty adjectives that Richard detailed in his sentence. And in the 25th chapter of the book of Numbers, there's a story of Moses and the Israelites were told not to mix, not to intermarry with people outside of the faith, with outside. In other words, they had a holy, pure race, and if they were to marry with somebody outside, that would defile the race. That sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it, here in Europe? There was a story in Auschwitz where a German officer in Auschwitz fell in love with a Jewish woman, and so he was giving favors to her. And when the authorities found out that there was a love affair happening, they were both taken to the wall and they were both executed. They were both shot to death because he was going to defile the pure race, the Aryan race. So in the book of Numbers, Moses told the people, don't mix with the Midianites. Those Midianites have the wrong God. They're bad. Don't mix. Well, there was a couple that did mix. Cosby and Zimri was their name. They fell in love. She came into his tent. And so an Israelite and a Midianite, they came together. And this shows the moral bankruptcy of religious teaching. The grandson of the high priest, his name was Phinehas, he took a sword and he went into the tent and he killed both of them. It says in Numbers 25. He killed both of them with a sword and murdered them. What happened to him? what do you think would happen today? If somebody did that today, what would happen to that person? It would be...
Calling the police would be the best solution.
Yeah, it would be a hate crime of the highest order. But what happened to Phinehas? Phinehas was rewarded, and Moses blessed him, and God said, thank you for keeping the race pure. Thank you for doing this whole... And then Phinehas was rewarded with a perpetual priesthood. So according to the Bible, what Phinehas did was good. It was a good act. So I asked my opponent in front of the audience, I said, do you think that what Phinehas did was a good moral thing? And he couldn't answer that. He couldn't say no or yes. Because if he says, yes, it was a good thing, well, then that violates all of our human sense of morality and goodness and, of not killing people for marrying outside of the pure race. But if he said no, he was violating what the Bible says, because God blessed it. He could not answer the question. Later on in email, he said something like, well, in dispensationalism, that was wartime, and principles were different back then. And so according to God, yes, it was a righteous thing what Phinehas did. So when I was doing this book, I was looking at the word evil in the Bible, because the Bible doesn't define morality. It doesn't even use the word morality. There's no moral sense in those laws. In fact, 7 of the 10 Commandments have nothing to do with what you and I would consider human-to-human action. And I looked up the word evil, and evil and wicked appear in the Bible about 1,000 times. And in order to know what the word evil means, since there's no definition, you look at what it's connected with. And in the Bible, evil is connected most often with idolatry, and then secondly, with breaking the Sabbath. Those are evil things to do, which none of us secular humanists would think those were evil, but the Bible says they are. And the third thing was intermarrying outside of the faith. That was evil. In fact, there are huge passages where the prophets are going after people and pulling out their hair and screaming at them and hitting them because they married somebody who was outside of the religion. So I think that shows you right there one example of how religion compromises moral judgment. This man was unable to make a moral judgment. Any one of us in this room would have said what Phinehas did was right. Are there any exceptions? It was horrible. And yet this man could not make a sensible moral statement about what Phinehas did.
Yeah, thank you for the answer. Yeah, of course, some religious people can say it was just a metaphor, a figure of speech. Okay, our God is great still. And what to say? Anything can be a metaphor. God himself as well.
Well, you can say maybe it was a joke, but it was a bad joke. It was a bad metaphor.
Yes, I agree, yes. Okay, so the next question. How does the image of God as monstrosity relate to the syndrome of a religious or post-religious trauma, which can take the form of severe post-traumatic stress disorder? Have you experienced or met people suffering from this trauma?
Well, in my tradition, the only thing I can say is children who are taught to believe in hell. Of course, hell is eternal, a threat of eternal torture in most Christian theologies. Some Christian theologies think hell is not eternal. It's just you die once. But and so I know a lot of people, especially a lot of Roman Catholics, who grow up horribly traumatized because they think their normal human thoughts, sexuality and basic things, is going to send them to eternal torment. So there's a lot of need for that kind of counseling of those people.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. In the Roman Catholic tradition, it can be really terrifying. I was raised in this way, and I was absolutely terrified. I had the type of hallucinations related to hell. For me, it was a devastating experience, okay? So, okay. All right, so, but okay, in your tradition, have you ever met people who suffered somehow because of a religion, though maybe they didn't realize it was because of religion?
Well, self-image, I think, is a big part of it. You know, being able to say that I'm capable of thinking for myself. I know a lot of people who would say we are worms, we are bad, we are corrupt, we are depraved, we deserve eternal torment, and so they act like slaves. If you look at the postures of prayer, they are identical to the postures of slavery. You bow your head, you kneel down, you make yourself small before the master. You put your hands together, shackled together in prayer and supplication. So I have met people who actually believe that they are worms, and that affects their ability to even think rationally, because they say, well, I can't even trust my own reason. So they just submit to the master, to the shepherd. And the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He's the good shepherd, but what does the shepherd want from a sheep? The shepherd doesn't love the sheep. The shepherd wants to fleece them and then kill them and eat them, basically. So I guess I would say I've met a lot of people who do have this self-abnegation, this whole idea that I'm just not good, and I can't do it, and even if I do think my own thoughts, they must be wrong, they must be bad, and that's damaging.
Thank you on the answer. Okay, so the next question now, Mohamed. I've got similar question. How does the image of God, but in the Quran, which can be interpreted as the image of the arch monster, a terrifying coincidentia oppositorum, relate to the morality of religious leaders and believers?
Thank you. It is a great pleasure being here. Again, Mohamed Cise. I am the treasurer of the Clergy Project. The Clergy Project was funded by Don Barker and gratefully Richard Dawkins. So I am the gatekeeper of a wonderful organization that I'm here to represent. And I'll be happy to talk to any one of you about what we do. Basically, we work with former clergies. If any former clergy here would like to be part of this organization, we'll be happy to talk to you and then have you part of the organization. The image of God in the Quran, this is how it goes. Part of the presentation of God in the Quran is Ar-Rahman al-Arsh istawa. It's like he is the merciful, expanded on his throne. That's how you have to view it. But at the same time, he is the one who increases woman's pain because of what the great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother did. Basically, Eve's manipulating Adam to eat the fruit in heaven. That's the image that you get. The other image of God is this master cheater. And I'll give you an image of it. In the chapter 2 of the Quran, when God created Adams, he informs angels that, hey, I'm about to create a new being. And the angels were like, are you about to create a new being who is going to disobey and splash blood? He says, you be quiet. I know what I'm doing. And this is like me literally reading from the Quran. So what he did is he programs Adam to know the names of certain things before. And then he brought him in front of angel, and he says, what are the name of these? And the angel did not know. And he asked Adam, what are the names of these? And Adam knew. So angels say, oh, you're the Almighty, you know everything. But he just said that he cheated. You informed him before bringing him in front of the audience. And then that's what we have to bow to. But what it comes up to is a cheating, unethical being. Morality and ethics are human values. They have nothing to do with religion. Religion is just a distortion of those things. I'll give you an image. Let's think about a bird. When a bird child died, what do? They also have their way of dealing with it. They struggle too. When I watched a documentary on Amazon Prime, a new type of birds that when his girlfriend is pregnant, he has to go and find a home in a tree and then go find clay to build entrance door and exit door. The entrance door has to be small enough for a snake not to get in. So the bird pregnant has to be inside, and then he begins to close the door. She stays inside all the time until she push out the eggs, and the babies are grown before she comes out. There is no morality that can pass that. Do they read it in the Quran or in the Bible? No, they don't. It is just a pseudoscience type like. So the image of God, it's just, I try to stay away from the word monstrosity because now I'm trying to bridge the line between religious people and non-religious people, because most of the time the conflict comes from the fact that we derogatively talk about each one. So I try to be a little bit kind, not to use that, but this is a conference, so no protection.
Okay. All right, so the next question. What is the response of Ephesus to this image of God and its influence on people? What can we do?
Here is a question. How many people did God kill in the Bible? Anyone can take a guess? Yes. Nice. Precisely over 2.8 million. That's verified. What about estimated? In terms of estimate, 25 million people. That's the image we get. And what I found really shocking for people to swallow is the prophet Joshua. He was kind of like a bold, and he was passing by, and the children were mocking him. Bold, bold, bold. And he got upset, and he told God to do something about it. So God sent a lion, and the lion killed the entire 25 children. Is this the Almighty? That's what you can do? But the perception of God in ethics is jeopardized, is taken hostage. Because what religion is, it's like a mental robbery. We got robbed for so many times. You still have a gun in your head to the point that you develop, after the hostage taking, a PTSD. But the hostage taking has lasted so long that you feel normal in the fear of the guy with gun on your head. And you end up praising him because he's been nice to you, because he hasn't killed you yet. That's what religion is. So it distorts and it closes up your senses of reasoning, and then you begin to be this wall on yourself. But it's not easy to get out, so.
Yeah, so in a sense, we, as religious people, if we are religious, we are in a slavery of, I can call it a mimetic monster. And this mimetic monster is somehow imitated by believers. So in many cases, they want to, consciously or not, imitate this monster. For example, holy wars. Yeah? So, okay. The next thing, yeah, so is this post-traumatic stress disorder related to religion. Yeah? Generally, I think it's a kind of taboo. Some atheists or ex-religious people, ex-believers, are afraid to talk about it. So what can we do with people who want to be cured?
What we can do is what I love in project management is called change management. Change management concept is, if you have an enterprise, you have an idea. You have someone who manages, the person has a project. But when you implement each project, you need to expect your employees to either resist, cooperate, or reject. if you, the business owner, if you're not prepared, you either going to fire people, which means you have a mini turnaround, or you're going to fail your company. So it's not too much about what people can do, but it's more so about what we can do for people. If we were able to escape the post-traumatic stress disorder, if we were able to escape the hostage taking, what we need to do is to be comprehensible, understandable, that the strength, that the mental strength that we have, it's not the same thing that everybody can have. So we need to give them time. We need to help them. We need to understand when they don't understand. In Alaska, one of my jobs is suicide prevention. That's what I do 9 to 5. So basically, people get depressed because winter time is too long. I work with juveniles in prison. But what I've learned is how hormone imbalance can do damage to people. And that's where I reached out to scientists, psychologists, and more so philosophers, because they taught me what are, logical fallacies. If we grow in a better understanding of logical fallacies, we can listen to people and find cues that they're trying to do this, You don't fight them, but your ability to understand them help you tap down whatever they're trying to do. So it's more of working on ourselves. It's more of finding our own balance. And that's what I found in ethics. It's not too much of being good, but it's trying to do the right thing the right way. And if you don't do it the right way, be humble, accept that you might have been wrong, and then accept to correct, and then go back again.
Thank you for the answer. I can add an interesting and juicy information about the Church of Satan. The number of victims of the Church of Satan is 0. The number of victims of the Catholic Church, as you know, of course, its estimations are various, but it's much, much higher. Who is better in morality?
That is true, and that's exactly what happened in heaven when God told Adam and Eve not to eat. He didn't tell them, if you eat, I'm going to be mad. He says, this is the fruit of knowledge that I don't want you to eat, or you will die. Satan's like, no, hold on 1 second. If this is the fruit of knowledge, that's actually what you should eat. That's the reason why in the church of Satan, there is no victim. Say, no, just eat it. You're not going to die. They ate it. They didn't die. We're still here. They made a bunch of babies. So you and me are part of it. So, of course, there will be no victim for the church of Satan.
Yes, I'm thinking about this church as a sexual perversion, rather. Okej. Stanisławie, teraz do ciebie miałbym pytanie, dosyć podobne oczywiście, tylko że z odniesieniem do twojego doświadczenia. Pierwsza rzecz to właśnie, jak widzisz ten obraz Boga właśnie jako arcypotwora, jako byt, który tak naprawdę jest koincydencja opozytorum, czyli ma w sobie te pierwiastki, przynajmniej na pozór, bardzo dobre miłosierdzie, a z drugiej strony jest praktycznie zbrodniarzem, który jest zdolny do topienia kobiet i dzieci podczas potopu, czy pozwala na straszne zbrodnie, czy namawia w różnych księgach biblijnych do ludobójstwa po prostu, na przykład w ziemi Kanaan. Jak widzisz ten obraz Boga jako pewnej potworności, którą musimy na co dzień jakoś tam sobie radzić w naszej kulturze?
No przede wszystkim bardzo się cieszę, że zostałem zaproszony przez organizatorów na to spotkanie i żona mnie pytała, czy się nie boję, bo to w Polsce różnie może być na takich spotkaniach. Ja mówię, boję się spotkań z fanatykami, ale z ateistami to uważam, że to jest bardzo exciting. No więc to bardzo dobre pytanie, myślę. Powiedziałem Łukaszowi na początku, że on wziął byka za rogi. W takim najbardziej radykalnym tego słowa znaczeniu. I jako człowiek, który jest pomiędzy, przede wszystkim zgadzam się z tym, że założony w pytaniu obraz Boga jako arcypotwora i to przerażające, to pięknie brzmi po łacinie, coincidentia oppositorum, ale tak naprawdę to oznacza utożsamienie najwyższego dobra dla wielu ludzi z najpotworniejszym złem. To jest to groźne coincidentia oppositorum. I to nie jest metafora, to nie jest gra, to jest coś, co jest napisane w tekście biblijnym. Wystarczy wspomnieć ofiarę Izaaka w Biblii hebrajskiej, dobrze znany również przez filozofów wielokrotnie, choćby Sørena Kierkegaarda, omawiany rozdział 22. Bóg żąda od ojca ofiary z ukochanego syna, który wcześniej mu obiecał. Czy można sobie wyobrazić coś bardziej potwornego? Nie wiem, jak judaizm sobie radzi z tym obrazem Boga jako arcypotwora. Wiem natomiast, że chrześcijaństwo przyjęło ten obraz. Przyjęło ten obraz i go wzmocniło. Bo przecież w tradycji, w teologii chrześcijańskiej ten obraz Izaaka ofiarowanego przez Abrahama Bogu to jest typ, topos, rodzaj uprzedzającego wydarzenia, które się wydarzyło na Golgocie, a więc potworna śmierć na krzyżu Jezusa. Śmierć, która wedle przekazów 4 ewangelistów Pawłowych, w listach Pawłowych i w teologii chrześcijańskiej, więc w tej próbie pogłębienia tego obrazu Boga, który żąda ofiary Syna jedynego, jeżeli się przyjmuje tą całą mitologię chrześcijańską, no to mamy tutaj nic innego jak powtórzenie, ale jeszcze mocniejsze tego, co się wydarzyło na górze Mojra między Abrahamem, który przez 3 dni, no właściwie od razu w pierwszych wersetach, ja przed tym spotkaniem sobie przeczytałem ten rozdział i mnie ciarki przechodziły. Idziemy i ja cię złożę na ofiarę. To słyszy Izaak w pierwszych dniach. I co ten biedny syn przez te 3 dni idąc z ojcem, aż do momentu, który znamy z ikonografii wielokrotnie, wyjmuje nóż i chce zabić swego syna. Więc to jest rzeczywiście jakiś przerażający obraz. W chrześcijaństwie, we wszystkich właściwie tradycjach mamy to wzmocnienie jeszcze przez ikonografię, ale też konkretne krzyże wiszące z nagim korpusem, które dzieci od najmłodszych lat widzą, całują. Zbliżamy się teraz do Dni Wielkanocnych, Pasji, gdzie to będzie powtórzony ten rytuał przywracający rzeczywistość tego mitu. I nie jest przypadkowo, i to może na koniec o tym powiem, bo wydaje mi się, że to jest ważne, że pogromy w Europie chrześcijańskiej miały miejsce zwykle po takim aktywnym, to jest to reacting, to bycie przy. To się dzieje tu i teraz, jeszcze raz, że ci potworni, perwersyjni Żydzi zamordowali naszego Zbawiciela. Więc co robimy? Jak są Żydzi w pobliżu, to taki pogromik zrobimy, tak? Który często się kończył nie tylko poturbowaniem, ale i śmiercią. Więc co z tym robić? No ja jestem nauczycielem, wykładam od wielu lat religię, najpierw jako zwolennik religii, teraz jako sceptyk. No mam pewne podpowiedzi. Jednej z nich udzielił zresztą tu siedzący Richard Dawkins, który przez godzinę rozmawiał z jezuitą George'em Coyne. No i mu zadawał takie właśnie pytanie. Father Coyne, jak ty możesz w takie rzeczy wierzyć? I pamiętam z tej 7 odcinków chyba, jak Coyne mówi, Richard, don't push me too much, I'm Catholic priest, you know. Więc ja jestem byłym księdzem, więc mnie można to powiedzieć, że ja mam z tym duży problem. To dla mnie jest nie do zaakceptowania i sądzę, że jeśli ktoś koniecznie chce być wierzący, to może zaakceptować taką radykalną krytykę ateizmu, również nowego ateizmu i powiedzieć, że z tym ja się nie zgadzam. Ja inaczej. A jak to już jest jakby opowieść na inną okazję i może Dni Ateizmu nie są najlepszymi, żeby się nad tym zastanawiać. Ale w sumie takie pytania trzeba zadawać.
Tak, bardzo ci dziękuję. Jeszcze mam drugie pytanie dotyczące właśnie tego zespołu traumy religijnej czy postreligijnej. Religia, mówi się często w kręgach ateistycznych, jest rodzajem choroby, tak? Ale można powiedzieć, że ona ma wiele poziomów, że są łagodniejsze formy i są formy mocniejsze. I jeśli chodzi o ten zespół traumy religijnej czy postreligijnej, to z tego co wiem, przybiera bardzo drastyczne formy, łącznie z rodzajem halucynacji. Zbliża się to do choroby psychicznej, tak? Do stanów psychotycznych wręcz. Znam przypadki w Polsce, kiedy siostra zakonna opowiadała dziecku 7-letniemu o piekle i to dziecko 2 tygodnie nie mogło spać. Tak? A z drugiej strony rozmawiam z różnymi ludźmi, którzy są sceptykami czy ateistami i czasami po latach dopiero się przyznają, że mieli coś podobnego jak odeszli od religii, że mieli koszmary, że się bali. Tak? Chciałem się zapytać, jak widzisz tą właśnie traumę religijną czy postreligijną? Czy znasz ludzi, którzy jej doświadczyli i co z tym w ogóle robić?
No to jest oczywiście pytanie, które idzie o krok dalej. To znaczy, to nie chodzi tylko o te potworne obrazy z Biblii, o których mówiliśmy wcześniej, ale o jakby jak one się osadzają w psychice. Czyli jak Kościół przez socjalizację doprowadza do tego, że ludzie się z tym godzą. Uważają wręcz, że bycie w takim imaginarium religijnym ich zbawi. No, muszę powiedzieć, że ja tkwiłem jako dziecko, nastolatek wychowany w tradycji katolickiej, cała moja rodzina jest katolicka. W pewnym sensie zostałem w to włączony w sposób taki kropla drąży kamień. Tak? To jest nasączanie tej bezbronnej psychiki dziecka tymi obrazami i ja, tak jak miliony dzieci na świecie, nie zdawałem sobie sprawy z tego, w czym ja tkwię. Tak jak powietrze, no, oddycha się nim, a zdaje się sobie sprawę z tego, że ono jest nie takie, dopiero jak zaczyna nas dusić. Więc żeby jeszcze wzmocnić ten rodzaj właśnie socjalizacji religijnej, no, tkwiłem przez 30 prawie lat w zakonie jezuitów, więc wydawałoby się w takiej strukturze będącej centrum. I radziłem sobie przez te 30 lat właśnie całymi niezwykle subtelnymi strategiami oswajania tej potwornej strony religii i ona jawiła się jako religia odnowiona. Bo to był czas Soboru Watykańskiego II, bo mówimy tutaj o katolicyzmie, tak? Miałem wspaniałych, do dzisiaj zresztą mam jezuitów amerykańskich zwłaszcza, którzy nawet nie zauważyli, że ja już nie jestem jezuitą. Dla nich jakby to nie ma znaczenia, w tym sensie, że jest to wspólnota ludzi myślących, szukających nowych jakby odpowiedzi na pytania, jak być religijnym dzisiaj. Więc to są, nie chcę się tutaj rozwodzić na ten temat, natomiast odpowiadam na twoje pytanie o te traumy. No jest nawet jednostka chorobowa, która się nazywa chorobą eklezjalną. To znaczy ludzie są uzależnieni, jak ta ostatnia książka Richarda Dawkinsa właśnie, która się tutaj pojawiła dzisiaj. Jak to jest tytuł? Rigol? Taka groźna substancja uzależniająca. No większość ludzi nie... Ja od 18 lat jestem w procesie detoksykacji. W każdym razie Dzień Ateizmu, no krótko mówiąc, nieźle mi idzie chyba, ale no niestety nie wszystkim tak dobrze idzie. Mam dużo znajomych księży i byłych księży, którym źle idzie. Dlaczego? Bo te wszystkie osaczające psychikę strategie straszące, o czym Dan mówił, więc lęk przed piekłem, ten słynny slogan Cypriana z Kartaginy, extra ecclesia nulla salus, więc poczucie ostracyzmu, wykluczenia. Więc to wszystko działa. Podam dwa konkretne przykłady. Jeden to jest mój serdeczny przyjaciel z lat uniwersyteckich, który niedawno dokonał coming outu. Jest osobą transseksualną i jest uzależniony od Kościoła. Żali mi się, że Kościół ciągle go nie akceptuje. Więc ja próbuję mu powiedzieć, że to może nie jest tak źle, to daj sobie spokój z tym Kościołem. To nie działa. Więc na przykład osoby LGBT+, które są w tej kościelnej matni, mają bardzo ciężko. To są rzeczy groźne, to są samobójstwa, to są... No nie muszę Państwu powiedzieć, co się dzieje w Polsce w tej chwili. Druga sprawa to są dyscyplinarne regulacje Kościoła, jak celibat, jak uniemożliwianie święceń kobietom i tak dalej. To jest cały szereg ofiar ludzi, którzy chcą być katolikami, są katolikami i nie mogą zrealizować swojej chęci bycia w tej wspólnocie przez idiotyzmy właśnie dyscyplinarne. I zakończę papieżem Franciszkiem, który jest taki fajny, taki selfie pope, jak to się mówi, który mówi piękne rzeczy o osobach LGBT, który rozmawia z nimi, zaprasza ich do różnych komisji, ale jednocześnie utrzymuje ten potworny, homofobiczny katechizm Kościoła katolickiego. Pojawiają się straszne dokumenty ostatnio Kościoła amerykańskiego, gdzie właśnie jest homofobiczny dyskurs w rozkwicie. Już nie mówię o Polsce. Więc niestety muszę powiedzieć jako były ksiądz i jako były katolik, że ta instytucja jest źródłem chorób jak żadna inna w tym kraju. Dziękuję.
So, Professor, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to seize the moment to thank Dan Barker and Richard Dawkins again, because this is what Clergy Project does. Former clergies, when you leave the church, you lose your family, you lose your everything, you lose yourself. By the way, you've been there for so long, you don't know, you don't have any computer skills, you don't know mechanic, you don't know mathematics, nothing. So what we do is, former clergies, they reach out to us, they fill up applications. We give them three things, basic things. One is a secure and online community where they can, participate in the conversation and talk freely. That's one. The second is we give them mental health support. So we have a few mental health clinicians who give them sessions, and we participate in paying those sessions for them. And the third thing is we help them develop new skills. We have job skills development people who will work with them, identify new skills, and help them find new jobs. So if there are similar situations here, I would really love to meet you and discuss how we can safely and securely provide this type of support to those former clergies so they can think about having a new life. That's what I wanted to add.
By the way, Mohammed, you forgot to mention the other founder of the Clergy Project, which is Daniel Dennett,
Oh, yes.
the philosopher, and his colleague, Linda Lascola. By the way, there was a Broadway play about it that aired right off Broadway just a few months ago.
Okej. To jest bardzo ważne, co mówimy, ale ja jednak widzę, że to jest świetna robota Mohameda tutaj i całej fundacji, Neta i tak dalej. Ale właśnie ta świadomość jest bardzo nieduża wśród właśnie byłych duchownych, byłych zakonników. Ludzie nie wiedzą, że coś takiego istnieje jak ten projekt. Nie mają pojęcia, cierpią. Mamy też mnóstwo przykładów ludzi, którzy byli zakonnikami, którzy na przykład zostali alkoholikami albo w kierunku samobójstwa zaczęli się staczać i oni totalnie nie wiedzieli, co zrobić. Jak szukali w różnych miejscach jakiejś terapii, to właściwie psychologowie czy terapeuci nie mieli zielonego pojęcia, co z nimi zrobić. Także oni byli szalenie samotni i do dzisiaj tacy ludzie są. Także dobrze, żeby w ogóle wiedzieli właśnie o tym projekcie, o którym Mohamed wspomniał. Także bardzo, bardzo dziękuję, jest to świetny pomysł.
Yeah, I would say let's start it today. Linda, thank you so much for bringing me on board. I will be happy to meet Professor after this session. I'll be happy to talk to any one of you, give you my business card. I'll be happy to begin, like not even think about it. Let's do it like yesterday. After this session, let's meet, let's talk about it. Let's see how we can do something. They call me an action man because I don't wait for solutions. I tend to create solutions. So we're going to solve this problem mechanically. We're going to visualize it and mathematically calculate it, and then we're going to solve it.
So what could be a common basis that we can find for atheists and religious people to cooperate? Because our societies are full of religious people, and what to do, how to cooperate? Question for you, all gentlemen.
I remember when I became an atheist, my parents were still believers, and we talked for a while. And my mother very quickly said, you know what? Now that you explained to me what that monster is in the Bible, she said, I'm nicer than God. And she said, one of the nice things about being an atheist is I don't have to hate anymore. I can just love people for who they are. If you're a Muslim or if you're a... And I think our strongest appeal is appeal to basic human morality. Is this decent? Is this good? Is this kind? Is this reasonable? And most human beings, I'm sure there's a whole lot that are too far gone, but most human beings at least will relate to that basic idea of what was happening with those ancient Israelites and the ancient Muslims was what I don't like to use the word evil because it conjures up a kind of cosmic moral thing, but it was evil. What that God was doing was just horribly immoral. And aren't you better than that? Instead of putting them down, bring them up. Aren't you better? Like my mother, aren't you better than that? You're in spite of your religion, you're a good person. So I think that's a good first step.
Okay. Mohamed, would you like to add?
Yes, it's really interesting. I would say it starts with increasing our own knowledge about even the community that we live. That's why I love philosophy and psychology. It's an endless quest for understanding and improvement. We want to do that. If we, I would say, ethics society, not atheist society, because what Dan just said is we are better, right? And that's what ethics is about. So let's call ourselves an ethics society, which is what the other side doesn't have. We have to continue to do some improvement in our own side. It's not the discovery of the wrong thing doesn't end right there. Every new knowledge comes with a negative consequence. So we have to continue the improvement in our own side. My awakening came from a story that the professor touches about Isaac. God telling his son, let go 3 days, walk, 3 days of trauma, 3 days of you knowing that I'm going to kill you. Guess what? Muslims believe that it was not Isaac, it was Ishmael. Well, my position is, no matter who the heck that kid is, no child deserves it. So either you make it Isaac, Ishmael, or whatever, that father will go to mental health facility. That's it. So I have to be capable of rejecting it, no matter who the situation is, because that's where the polarization comes from. Christian will feel okay because it was Isaac. It makes them feel validate their opinions. Muslims are like, no, it was Ishmael. You both are nonsense. Just quit. No child should be killed. And by the way, why was the child being killed? Oh, God wanted to test Abraham to say if he is really faithful. Like the same thing he did to Job. Kill his children, his animals, just to make sure that didn't you create him? You knew before you create him, because he is almighty, omniscient, omnipresent, everything. Still he has to test. So you don't, or you do. At the end, if you have to test it, that means you don't. We need to continue to increase our own awareness, and I usually plug that into emotional intelligence. When I'm in a conversation with a Christian and I gauge my own reaction, I learn to see that when my voice is raising, the person's ear shuts down. So I learn to control that a little bit, and I talk calmly, and I see that, well, that's what the person would say. I really like the way you say it. So are you saying, I realize that it's not what I'm saying, but it's how I'm saying it. That's the reason why he's paying more attention. So I think we too need to do some work, and we can only do that to make the world better. If we want to do the way they did it, we're going to create more chaos.
Okay, so another question. There is a very interesting study from 2015 that indicates that religious children are less altruistic than non-religious ones. Are you surprised or not?
I am not surprised, because when I was growing up, I didn't learn to read and write. I learned to recite. Like, I didn't learn that this is a microphone. I only learned to say microphone. What it is, it doesn't matter. As a result, what I do with the microphone, I don't know. What is microphone useful for the person behind this room, I don't know. The non-religious kids, he doesn't learn to say microphone. They teach him what is a microphone. It is an electronic device. It raises your voice for the person behind the room to understand it. Therefore, if you give me a microphone and that child a microphone, he will know much what to do with it, whereas I'm going to just say microphone.
Okay, Dia, yes. Okay, so thank you. Okay, so thank you for your thoughts. Well, of course, very interesting.